Show. Be a part of the action by calling toll-free 1-877-Newsmax. That's 1-877-639-7629. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
We're going to continue to make progress on all those fronts, and yes, we are going to continue to implement the health care law. The product is good, people want it, and we should not live in a country where people are going bankrupt just because they get sick. And anybody who's going to keep on pushing against that, they will meet my resistance, because I am willing to fix any problems that there are, but I'm not going to abandon people to make sure that they've got health insurance in this country. That is not something we're going to do. But this is a fight that we're going to keep fighting because it's worth fighting. And that's what Melody referred to. It's true. I'm not an ideological guy, but there's some things I really believe in.
All right, folks, welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. Wednesday edition, day before Thanksgiving. Glad you're aboard. Barack Obama's not an ideological guy. I had no idea. Joining us right now to talk about Obamacare and more is Senator John Thune, a Republican from South Dakota. Hello, Senator.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, so you hear the president. He's not going to back down. He's not an ideological guy. Is that a surprise to you?
Yeah, I think that's a surprise to a lot of Americans. I think the president obviously has an agenda which consists of expanding government in transforming government in ways that we haven't seen in generations. And he is very ideological. He believes government's the solution, and that's why with their health care plan, they've tried to take over 1/6 of the American economy. They want to remake us in the, sort of the picture that we see in Europe. And I think it's unfortunate. And what you hear him now saying is he's digging in, he's going to fight on this, but he still wants to exempt all his friends and allies, which is what we're trying to prevent from happening.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that. You flagged this rule change after it was filed under the in the Federal Register. You're calling it crony capitalism at its worst. The unions who were behind this found out what was in it. They're unhappy, and now they're getting a break.
Well, exactly. And, this is the kind of thing that just, I think, makes the American people furious when they see that the president takes care of his political allies, his donors. They get treated better than average Americans, and that's a clear pattern with this administration. It is cronyism at its worst, and, we've been trying to curb that, but what the president did this week when they published this proposed rule that would exempt these union health care plans is they're giving them a special deal. I mean, they're getting a carve-out, a backroom deal that nobody else gets, and everybody else is going to have to pay for it. And I just, I understand the union's frustration with this law, but they were one of the biggest advocates of it. They were out there pushing hard to get it passed. They've been incredible supporters of the president politically, and now they're finding out, like everybody else is, that this law is a very ugly reality for them. And they're trying to get an exemption, and the president is giving them what they want. Unfortunately, everybody else is paying the price.
All right, Senator, we made some news here on this show on Monday when Mr. Halpern from Time Magazine and MSNBC came on, and he said he agreed with me that there were death panels. He said it was built into the Affordable Care Act. It's how they're going to pay for it. It's how we're going to cut costs. And before we get to that, the death panel is, in the minds of many, IPAD, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, and Barack Obama gets to appoint 15 of those, all 15 of the members. And I just found out today from a Fox News report that because of the nuclear option in the Senate, he gets to appoint those members with just 51 votes. So here we go again.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it is a blatant power grab of the highest order, and you just see it in every area. The nuclear option triggering that last week allows them to put their people into positions of power who are going to do everything they can to implement his agenda with in bypassing Congress. I mean, it gives them an opportunity to circumvent the legislative branch of the government and to get things done with a simple majority, 51-vote majority in the United States Senate, and that breaks with precedent and tradition and history, and that goes back a couple hundred years in this country. So, I'm I think you're going to see more and more of this. But this IPAP, we've tried to repeal that, obviously, because we do think that is a central core element of this law, and it is what's going to allow them to ration health care. And you saw the other thing probably in that New York Times piece, I think it was over the weekend, where they didn't want to talk about redistribution, even though that's really also at the heart of this health care law.
Absolutely. We're talking to Senator John Thune here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Would you call them death panels? I mean, they're going to decide. As you said, they're going to ration care. We've heard from the president himself, who cites that about 80% of health care costs are for in the last few months of life, and we have to do something about that. Now, he hasn't said that in about 4.5 years, but when he was running and talking about health care, he did say that at a town hall forum, and that's a conversation that's going to be coming up very soon, that fundamentally our values in this country, where we want to keep our parents and grandparents alive as long as possible, they're now going to be denied the bypass, the hip surgery, take a pill, go to a hospice. I mean, that's a revolution in the way we view our parents and our grandparents.
Well, it is. And, what it really does, Steve, is it does take the decision-making away from individuals and families, decisions that ought to be made around kitchen tables and made among family members, and replaces it with big government. And the architects of big government have wanted that all along, which is, that's the president and the people that he surrounded himself with. So you can characterize it however you want to, but the fact is, to make this thing work, they have to ration care, and they're going to have this independent payment advisory board that's going to make decisions about what gets covered and what doesn't get covered, and that's going to take us into a whole new world.
And you can't, and you can't even, you could question them, but you can't even stop them. They could sit there and say, yes, an 80-year-old will no longer get a bypass surgery, and if 51 Democrats vote for it, you guys are now powerless.
Yeah, and that's again the great risk, the great threat of a command and control healthcare system that's run out of Washington, D.C. When you take over, when you give political control, literally to 1/6 of our economy, this is what you end up with. And I hope the American people are waking up to it. I think they are. I think that the premium, sticker shock, the lost coverage, and very soon people are going to start losing their doctors. I think you're going to start seeing the American people react to this in a way that hopefully will generate the necessary critical mass to get Washington to start over, to repeal this thing and go back to the drawing board. And I hope that happens around the country, because right now it's going to take something like that to get these guys' attention. The one thing I do think that's happening in the Senate, I think it's happening in the House too, is the wall of resistance among congressional Democrats is starting to crack a little bit, because people back home are lighting them up, and we need to continue to see that happen.
One more, Senator, and that is the deal with Iran. If you listen to both sides, now the Iranian government is saying that the press release put out by the White House was misleading, was inaccurate. They say, among other things, they could continue to enrich uranium. Kerry says, no, they can't. This just seems like it's as bizarre as it gets.
It is, and I think they desperately wanted a deal. They were so desperate to get a deal, they're going to get a bad deal, and I think you can tell very simply by the reaction that the Israelis and the Saudis had to it. They're the people who are most directly impacted by this, and they know that the Iranians are intent on developing a nuclear capability, and this really doesn't do anything to stop that. They continue to enrich uranium, and the stopping construction at the deep water reactor plutonium facility there is a short-term thing. They can continue to do other work around
Senator, one question, not to interrupt. We only have 30 seconds. Will you guys pass further sanctions before the 6 month is over?
I think we have to, and I hope we have bipartisan support to do it, Steve, because if we loosen up those sanctions and loosen the noose that we have around their neck right now, they're going to break out. And I think that's exactly what they want to do, and that's why they're so excited about this deal.
Senator, happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, you bet, Steve. Good talking with you.
Take care. You too. Senator John Thune, ladies and gentlemen, Republican from South Dakota, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Very interesting. I certainly hope they do pass the sanctions. Okay, we're moving right along. Big show today. Don't touch that dial, no matter what the dial is. Steve.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, and you may be forced to watch helplessly as you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, all while your home's value is eradicated. controversial economist Robert Wiedemer believes we will soon stare down a secret crisis that will rival the Great Depression. It was Wiedemer's 2005 book, America's Bubble Economy, that warned of coming meltdowns in our housing and stock markets. Washington did not heed his call, and folks on Main Street lost $50 trillion from the recession. His New York Times best-selling book, Aftershock, predicted our federal debt and dollar would be the next bubbles to burst. And now Robert Wiedemer has released a startling video with shocking evidence the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Join us at Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com.
We're in the midst of an obesity epidemic, and I'm not surprised. The statistics on obesity mirror an increasing trend of eating out or ordering in. In fact, some people dine out every night, but eating in restaurants is one of the biggest enemies of your heart. When you're in a restaurant, you don't really know what you're getting, and the calorie counts of many restaurant dishes are astronomical. In fact, some single dishes contain more calories than we should eat in an entire day. Eating in fast food restaurants is even worse. A diet of hamburgers, French fries, and shakes constitutes a fast lane to the emergency room. If you really want to help your heart, get in the habit of cooking simple meals at home. Here are 3 easy tips that will make your food taste better than even the best restaurant. Choose the best fruit in season. Your local farmer's market is a great place to start. It will probably still cost less than that pie you were thinking of buying. Get in the habit of using fresh herbs. You can use them in egg white omelets or dust them on the fish you grill or bake. And for a light dessert, choose a square or 2 of dark chocolate that you and your spouse can enjoy. There are lots of ways to make your heart healthy, but there are also lots of ways to damage it. That's why I wrote Fix It, Dr. Crandall's 90-day program. In it, I'll tell you how to kickstart your metabolism every day, how to pick the best diet for you, how to stop hunger from sabotaging your diet, the 7 superfoods for your heart. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute.
46029.
I love you, son, so it hurts when you say I hate you.
Get off the sidelines and be a part of the show. Call Steve toll-free at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, very interesting conversation in the previous segment with Senator John Thune, and I'm sure it will be just as interesting a conversation as we welcome in our friend former Congressman Pete Hoekstra, who was, of course, former chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Hello, Congressman.
Hello, Steve. Good to be with you.
So what are you doing getting ready for Turkey Day?
Just kind of sitting back and relaxing. And hopefully going to enjoy a good weekend with the family.
Good. That's what it's all about. I wish you and your family all the best. Let me ask you about something that we talked about with the congressman insofar as it pertains to Iran, and he said that he believes the Senate has to pass sanctions and more sanctions before. Well before the 6-month period of this agreement with Iran is over. Iran has said if that were to happen, it would be it would nullify the deal. Do you think they'll do it, and do you hope they'll do it?
Well, you got a couple of things there. Number one, the Senate may do it, but I think it's very, very unlikely. Harry Reid most likely will not let that come up for a vote. He knows, number one, that would be an embarrassment to the president. And the president would veto the legislation anyway, and they would never get I don't think they would get the supermajority to override the vetoes. Remember, the Harry Reid and the president right now are doing everything that they can. 4 weeks ago they were talking about taking back the House of Representatives so that Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and President Obama could run America for those 2 years, 15 and 16, 2015 and 2016. Now Harry Reid is desperately doing anything that he can to hold on to the U.S. Senate. To embarrass this president is not the tack that they're going to go down. They are going to embrace this president, and they think that's the only way that they can maybe salvage the elections in 2014.
Yeah, well, I hear you. This agreement, though, and later on, we're going to speak to the wife of the pastor, Pastor Saeed Abedini, one of 3 Americans being held by Iran. And here's our government with a wonderful opportunity to do something about it, to force Iran to make a show of good faith, and nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but Steve, why are we surprised?
Well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Again, this president has done nothing to help this family, to help this individual, over the last year. And you're right. This would have been a wonderful opportunity, but the president has a habit of doing this. Consider the doctor that helped us identify
in Pakistan.
Pakistan helped us identify where Osama bin Laden was. Number one, he was discovered because of a leak that came, right out of this president's administration. Loose lips. I think it was by
Joe Biden.
Was it by Biden?
I think so.
Biden or Panetta. Loose lips coming out of there, and this administration has done absolutely nothing to help this doctor. Absolutely nothing to help this pastor in Iran. This is their normal course of business. The Iranians have a tremendous amount of things to be thankful for on this Thanksgiving Day. Americans have much to be nervous about. How do you tell it's a bad deal? When the Israelis and the Saudis are in agreement that it is a bad deal, and the Iranians think it is a great deal.
Well, Congressman, we always knew that Obama was a great uniter, but who knew it would be the Saudis and the Israelis that he'd unite?
Well, yeah, because they just take a look at what Iran's intentions are in the greater Middle East, and Iran poses a threat to all the countries that used to be our friends.
Absolutely.
They're up to no good in Iraq. The Saudis are nervous about them. The Israelis are nervous about them. The whole Middle East is very, very nervous of a resurgent and really now a liberated Iran that I think is much closer to a nuclear weapon than what we ever thought that they would get.
We're talking to former Congressman Pete Hoekstra here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me ask you about some news that was made here on this show on Monday when Mark Halpern agreed with me that there were death panels, or as I said it to him, there was rationing, aka death panels, that are going to result out of Obamacare. He said it's not even open for debate. He says they're built into the legislation. That's how they're going to pay for things. And now we find out today that when the Senate blew itself up, or the Democrats blew the Senate up with the nuclear option, now it's going to take just 51 votes to get all these 15 IPAP board members, aka death panel, cleared through the Senate to be appointed to ration our care.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not been a tremendous amount of attention paid to what the Senate did when they blew it up with the nuke option, but it's going to make the appointments by this president and future presidents. There's not going to be any restraint on them. The bureaucracies, the courts are going to become much more extreme, now these death panels. You're right. The president's going to have the opportunity to appoint the most liberal, the most left members of in the country to this, and all they're going to need is 51 votes, and they're going to get them. Yeah, no,
you're absolutely right, and the only good part here is that the public is going to be made aware of this, and they're going to be. You think they're outraged now? Wait till they find out that I hate to say it, but that grandma and grandpa, and in some cases mom and dad, won't get the operation or the medical device or the treatment they need in order to get better and live another year possibly, because the government will say no, it's not worth it. You think they're outraged now? That's going to be a revolution.
It's going to be amazing. But I mean, Steve, again, we shouldn't be amazed by or surprised at what this president may do over the next few months to salvage Obamacare in one form or another. There will be massive spending. There will be, as what we've seen again today. Today he said, or he didn't say, but the administration said, well, you know what? The small businesses, we're going to give them a waiver for a year.
Yeah, I know. That's the latest one, Congressman. We're running out of time here. But listen, I thank you very much. Have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
We'll speak to you next week, former Congressman Pete Hoekstra. When we come back, I want to talk about the Mark Halpern interview. All over the place, this interview. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve Malzberg.
If your prostate is giving you problems and your doc says it's just part of getting older, be wary. Renowned physician and author Dr. David Brownstein thinks this is baloney. He's discovered a link between aging and prostate health and believes prostate concerns do not have to be an inevitable part of aging. That's why he created Prostate Revive.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Brownstein. I personally formulated Prostate Revive to include the most essential natural ingredients available to help promote a healthy prostate gland and optimal urinary function.
The producers of Dr. Brownstein's Prostate Revive are so thrilled with the positive feedback from satisfied customers that for a limited time, they are willing to send you your first month's supply free. Plus, call now and you'll also receive Dr. Brownstein's special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. For details on getting your free bottle, call 1-800-596-REVIVE. That's 1-800-596-REVIVE. Take control with Prostate Revive. Call now while supplies last to claim your risk-free bottle at 1-800-596-REVIVE.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
That's 800-978-4813.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
And Mark Halperin was on with Steve Malzberg the other day at NewsmaxRadio.com, in which he said that Obamacare has death panels. And that there are people that are going to determine who gets treated and who doesn't, that there will be rationing. And everybody picked up on that because, of course, the regime has been denying from day one that there were death panels, and Sarah Palin, of course, coined the phrase. So now Halperin is this, no, I never said that. Yeah, Malzberg said to Halperin, he said, okay, so you believe there will be rationing, a.k.a. death panels. And Halperin said, yeah, it's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
There you go. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. It's always good getting a little mention and plug from Rush Limbaugh, who on his show today on the radio mentioned our interview with Mark Halperin and Mark Halperin's denial. But, of course, he could deny all he wants. He never uttered the word death panel, but as you'll hear, I mean, I asked him, and we played it yesterday, and we invited him on for today to, if you wanted to go, to refute what he said or what we said he said. But he said it. He didn't say the word death panels. I said the word death panels. I said rationing, a.k.a. death panels. Are you're saying they're in the bill? He says, it's indisputable. It's built into the bill. He didn't say, well, I don't like that word, death panels. He said it. And as he tweeted out, my bad, meaning his bad. So anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. But here he was. Let's refresh your memory. Monday, here's what he said on Monday on this show, which has caused a ruckus to the point where 4 Fox primetime shows yesterday showed this interview, portions of this interview. Here's cut 21. So, I think they focused on the death panels, which will be coming. Call them what you will. Rationing is part of it. And I
agree. It's huge. It's going to be a huge issue, and that's something else about which the president was not fully forthcoming and straightforward.
All right, so you believe that there will be rationing, a.k.a. death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
There you go. So that's what he said. Now on Morning Joe today, he was asked about it as he continued his mini tour. He did it on CNBC. Here he was on Morning Joe, kind of saying I never said death panels, but then talking about what death panels do, saying how we need death panels without saying the word death panels. This is cut number 35.
The question I was asked also included the phrase rationing, and that's really what I was keying off of. I think it's three things are pretty clear. One is that a lot of provisions in the Affordable Care Act were not debated at the time of passage, were not debated in the context of the campaign, and because the program's gotten off to a bad start, there's going to be a lot of controversy as these things are discussed. Two, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, which is a big part of the Affordable Care Act, that is central to cost control, is something that hasn't been debated in a real way, and that those decisions that are made by that board are going to lead to what I think could be described perfectly reasonably as rationing. And again, as I said, that's built into the system. There's going to be an effort to control costs. Now, the law says it's not going to affect individuals, but only providers, but I think the way the market works, it's pretty clear, and I'm not alone in this view, that it's also going to affect individuals eventually. And as I said in the clip you played, not every decision about health care relates to end-of-life decisions, but that's such an extraordinarily large part of the health care costs that this country spends. I just think there should be a big debate of it. And when I said it was built in, I wasn't saying death panels were built in. I was saying built into the system is an effort to control costs done by a government board that has not been debated enough.
All right. Okay, death panels. That's what I call them, death panels. I said it to him. Anyway, that was Larry Kudlow's show on CNBC. My mistake. My bad. That was not Scarborough. He was on Scarborough earlier today, and then you have. Let's see. I have written down here cut 33. Oh, well, okay, that'll be later on. Here you got special report with Brett Baer last night on the Fox News channel. This was after the 5 had already done it, but let's go to a special report, and they were talking about how now, as we mentioned, Barack Obama could unilaterally, with 51 votes in the Senate, appoint the IPAB, the IPAB, which is what I like to call the death panel. Here's cut number 20.
Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin called this group death panels and was blasted for it. Now some in the mainstream media are not disputing it could lead to rationing of care.
It's going to be a huge issue, and that's something else about which the president was not fully forthcoming and straightforward.
Right, so you believe that there will be rationing, a.k.a. death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
And former Vermont Governor and DNC Chairman Howard Dean, also a doctor, is against it, writing in the Wall Street Journal in July, quote, by setting doctor reimbursement rates for Medicare and determining which procedures and drugs will be covered and at what price, the IPAB will be able to stop certain treatments its members do not favor by simply setting rates to levels where no doctor or hospital will perform them.
There you go. Howard Dean weighing in on that. And when he did that, Sarah Palin, let's skip to cut 33. Sarah Palin has weighed in on what Dean had to say, because don't forget, Palin was the first one to cry death panels. And she caught you-know-what for it. Here's cut 33.
Were you surprised when you see the likes of Howard Dean and other Democrats jumping on board saying, hey, the governor was right?
Well, it was a pleasant surprise, and I don't think that we should condone them for finally trying to jump off the Obama train wreck that is coming down the pike here. I appreciate that they acknowledge it. Of course, there are death panels in there, but the important thing to remember is that's just one aspect of this atrocious, unaffordable, cumbersome, burdensome, evil policy of Obama's, and that is Obamacare.
Yeah. All right. I think she meant I don't think we should condone them. I think she meant I don't think we should condemn them for trying to jump off the Obama train wreck. That was in August of 2013, about a month or so, a few weeks after Howard Dean talked about how he's against them. So Mark Halperin is just another Democrat jumping on board and actually sounding an alarm that everybody has to heed. Let's go back to last night again. This is the 5 on the Fox News channel. This will be cut 22.
Well, here we are 4 years later, and now we know that it was the Obama administration who's been lying about Obamacare, and Sarah Palin told the truth about death panels. Don't believe me? Here's liberal NBC commentator Mark Halperin.
I think they focused on the death panels, which will be coming. Call them what you will. Rationing is part of it. And
I agree. Huge. It's going to be a huge issue, and that's something else about which the president was not fully forthcoming and straightforward.
All right, so you believe that there will be rationing, a.k.a. death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
But I love this. I like hearing myself, but more importantly, I like hearing Mark Halperin say it. And you know what? Yeah, he said to Kudlow, I kind of agreed because the question was phrased with rationing, a.k.a. death panels. But before that, as you heard over and over already, I said, death panels, which are coming. And he said, I agree, before I ever uttered the word rationing. So, right, the words didn't cross his lips, but he agreed with me twice when I referred to death panels. So I don't know, Mark, how you could really, say, well, all he's saying is I never said the word death panels. And that's true. He never said the word death panels, but he agreed that there would be death panels because I said it and he said yes. So it's like a stupid analogy, but did you murder that woman? Well, I beat her to death, and then I buried the body, and I ran and hid because I didn't want to get caught. Well, I never said I murdered her. Never used the word murder, but you said everything else. Kind of a bad analogy. There's got to be a better one out there. Anyway, the Kelly File with Megyn Kelly was the next show on the Fox News channel, the third one to run it. Here's cut 31. All right, so you believe that there will be rationing, a.k.a. death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
What? That was Mark Halperin, senior political analyst for Time magazine, in an interview yesterday that is still echoing across the country. Halperin's one of the most respected journalists in this country. Like him or not, he is. So his claim that Obamacare rations health care is getting a lot of attention. Today, he has tried to walk back those remarks in a tweet in which he said, in Monday interview, I did not say death panels, nor do I believe ACA, meaning Obamacare, contains them. Was speaking of political policy challenge of independent advisory board cuts. My bad.
My bad. The interview that's I don't know, I can never remember what she said. Resonating all over the country. Well, it is. It is, for good reason. Very little of it had to do with me, except I asked the question. And then Sean Hannity, and I want to thank Sean for playing it on his show right after Megyn Kelly's show. So I got a lot of mileage on this, and you know, again, for very good reason. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, and it goes back to when I had Tom Daschle on as a guest on my old radio show at WOR Radio. Tom Daschle basically helped write this Obamacare bill, if he didn't write it all himself, I believe. And Tom Daschle would have loved to have been Kathleen Sebelius, but Obama couldn't get him confirmed. But I believe he's been pulling the strings from behind the scenes right along. And he wrote a book, Tom Daschle, and he came on my show. This was in 09 or 010, and he didn't know who I was, and he didn't know what I was going to say. And so I said, okay, so an 85-year-old guy needs a double bypass, triple bypass. What are you going to do for him? Well, he said, we'll have to look at alternatives such as giving him a pill or putting him in a hospice. Now, what do you put people in a hospice for? To die. So I said, excuse me? I said, a pill isn't going to cure what you need a bypass for. It's not going to unclog your arteries. And hospice, I said, you're going to send them to die? He said, oh, those are your words, not mine. I said, well, that's what a hospice is for. This is what they have in store for our elderly. Our elderly. Barack Obama made that perfectly clear. Back on an ABC healthcare debate, it was either during the campaign or right after he was elected in 09. One of the two. When the woman stood up, I've played this over and over on the air. She said, I have a 100-year-old mother. She needs a pacemaker. Well, she'll be able to get a pacemaker. She has a zest for life. She loves life. She's full of life. Her spirit is so... Will that be taken into account? Will her spirit and her capacity to love life, will that be taken into account? And Barack Obama said, no. No. Basically, we don't care what your mother's spirit's like. She's 100. Goodbye. How's she going to contribute to society? And that's what they're going to have. They're going to have a formula based on, like they do in Great Britain and Canada, they're going to have a formula. How old you are, how many productive years you have left, how much the surgery or the implant or the device you need costs. And according to their formula, is it worth it for society to spend the money on your mother, your grandmother, your father, your grandfather, or you? And who's going to decide? The 15-panel board, or the 15-member board, that Obama now only needs 51 votes for in the Senate to assemble. So he'll pick the most radical, leftist lunatics that will be all for killing off elderly, sick people because it's going to save us money. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, when Mark Halperin sounds that alarm without using the word death panel and says this is another way Obama has not been forthcoming and we need to have this discussion, what do you think is going to happen when they start denying your mother and your grandmother and your father coverage? Or you coverage? Coverage meaning to get the operation. No, you can't get it. No, you can't get the device. No, you can't have the hip surgery. Take a pill. Go to a hospice. Die. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve Malzberg.
According to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, there are over 5,000 robberies every day. Your home could be at risk of being burglarized. Don't put your loved ones and valuables in jeopardy. For just over $1 per day, your home can be protected from break-ins, fire, and more. Get the latest home security technology from Protect Your Home, your ADT authorized dealer. Over 6 million households sleep better at night with ADT monitored home security. What's more, Protect Your Home is offering you their latest equipment, an $850 value, absolutely free for qualified customers. Protect your loved ones and home today. Call now for licenses and to find out more. The call is free, 1-800-949-8201. That's 1-800-949-8201. Again, 1-800-949-8201. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $36.99 per month. Payment by credit card or electronic bank account charge. For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only. Local permit fees may be required. Certain restrictions apply. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54, with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today. In this free offer, we are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
Newsmax Magazine every month.
Get off the sidelines and be a part of the show. Call Steve toll-free at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, the bad news on Obamacare never stops, not even on Thanksgiving Eve. Joining us right now to talk about it is Stan Velger. He is a resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, and according to him, there's going to be, 80 million of us that are going to lose our insurance pretty soon. And hello, Stan. Welcome, and thanks for taking the time on this day before the holiday.
Hey, Steve. Thank you for having me.
And I mispronounced your name probably, correct?
Voiger, but that's,
Voiger. Okay, I was close. I was close.
Yeah, not exactly.
And that's true. I tried to make myself feel good. All right, so you have, you and the American Enterprise Institute have done a study talking about all the cancellations, in addition to the individual cancellations, which we've been seeing. But of course, you're predicting, and it turns out that if you believe the reports, Obama knew this all along. They all did. That 80 million people are going to lose their employer-based health insurance plans by the end of next year?
Yeah, certainly tens of millions of people will see their plans canceled or at least changed materially. So there's especially people in small group plans, right, who work at smaller firms. A lot of them will see that their plans will have to comply with the same kinds of rules and regulations plans in the individual market have to comply with. And so there we'll see similar patterns to what's been happening up till now in the individual markets.
And then all of us that this will happen to will have to go on to the Obamacare website and look for a plan, correct?
Well, in many cases, the employer will take care of that, but you'll just realize after a while, okay, I see my employer is telling me now the plan we used to have no longer exists, so we're going to have to do something else.
Now, is this because the employers will no longer pay that, or is this because the insurance companies will be canceling these plans because, well, that's what's going to happen because they delayed the employer mandate, all right, for a year, and now when that kicks in, then the 80 million or so will be in the same boat that the individuals were. Their plans won't have maternity coverage, won't have drug rehab coverage, and won't meet the standard of Obamacare's demands. So therefore, those plans go bye-bye. Correct?
Yeah. So there's about 40 million people who'll be in that situation, right, where indeed where the plans that used to exist no longer exist, and then there's a bunch of people at larger firms that just buy plans from insurers who will also be in that situation. So that's another 40 million people. And on top of that, of course, even at the largest firms that self-insure and that are not subject to the similar kind of individual market regulations, even they will be faced with new taxes, with the opportunity of just paying a fine and dumping people onto the exchanges. So even in that group, there'll be a bunch of people affected. And
what people are going to find, for the most part, if the experience of the individuals are any indication, most people, I would assume, are going to find higher premiums, almost certainly much higher deductibles, because that's what people are really noticing. Even if they get subsidies or whatever, or they pay $50 a month, which I haven't seen any plan like that, but then again, I haven't looked. The deductibles are really prohibitive.
Yeah, especially if you're on sort of a catastrophic insurance plan now, or if you're at a firm that has young and healthy workers. Then you'll see that the new plans will be much less attractive.
It's crazy. And Stan, let me ask you this: the Obama administration today, again, in my view, in the view of many others, unconstitutionally, unlawfully, they've changed the law again. They announced a one-year delay of online enrollment for small businesses looking to purchase health care through the federal Obamacare website. So, here we go again.
Yeah, and it's weird. So the small business version of healthcare.gov has actually never been online. It's surprising that it hasn't really gotten any attention, right? So the individual one, at least they went online at some point. It didn't work, but at least it was there. The small business one, they just, right before October 1st, they announced, okay, we're not going to do that yet. You can go there, download a bunch of forms, and mail them in. But somehow that avoided a lot of scrutiny.
That's crazy. I mean, yeah, you're right. Nobody's talked about that. I guess the assumption is that a lot of small businesses, either they don't have to take the Obamacare because they have under 50 employees or whatever, or they're going to just opt to pay the fine and not do it.
But half of all small businesses offer health insurance to their employees
right now.
And a lot of them were supposed to use that small business website to purchase new plans that complied with the new rules and regulations.
It's just insane. Like I said, it doesn't stop. The more we find out, the more ludicrous the whole thing is. Listen, Stan, I appreciate your time. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, and I'm sure we'll speak again down the road.
You too.
Thank you very much. From the resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, Stan Vogler. I'm sure I got it wrong again. Sorry about that. Hey, look, we're all screwed. If we're not screwed yet, we're going to be screwed by this time next year. And it's panic mode. It's panic mode now for these millions of people that the administration refers to as 5%, and they don't even know what they have. They got subpar plans from rotten apple companies. They're going to go broke if they ever get sick. Those morons. Yeah. Wait till 80 million of us get that rude awakening and have to buy a more expensive policy with a much higher deductible. How are we going to afford it? Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio. Don't go away.
The Steve Malzberg.
Do you suffer from joint discomfort? Contrary to what the experts may say, achy joints do not have to be a normal part of aging. Holistic doctor David Brownstein challenged conventional thinking to focus on natural solutions for joint health. As a result, Dr. Brownstein has recently developed Limbex, the premium nutritional supplement specifically formulated to support healthy joints and connective tissue. It's a new joint breakthrough formula containing 11 hand-picked nutrients. Learn more at limbexjoint.com/special and take the 30-day Healthy Joint Challenge. That's a 30-day supply of the Limbex Joint Supplement. All you pay is a $4.95 shipping fee. Act now, and you'll also be given instant access to our downloadable special report, A Doctor's Guide to Happy, Healthy Joints at Any Age. You can do something about joint discomfort and flexibility. Learn how you can try it for 30 days at limbexjoint.com/special. That's LIMBEX joint.com/special. limbexjoint.com/special.
Wow, you look great. Thanks. I've lost some weight. What's your secret weapon? Actually, I do in fact have one. Really?
If you're looking for help in your weight loss efforts, remember this name, Metabio. It just may be the edge you've been looking for. Metabio is the nutritional weight loss breakthrough power-packed with 5 high-quality ingredients. Metabio supports healthy metabolism and promotes fat loss. It helps maintain your optimal weight and wellness when used as part of a healthy lifestyle. Now you can receive a 30-day supply of Metabio. Simply cover a $4.95 shipping fee. Visit themetabio.com/offer for complete details. Act now and you'll also be given instant access to our downloadable special report, A Practical Guide to Healthy Weight Management. Learn how you can try Metabio for 30 days at themetabio.com/offer. That's the metabio.com/offer. Hurry, only while supplies last at themetabio.com/offer.
A hot new book by Craig Smith argues that the greenback is now at high risk thanks to our spendthrift politicians. Mark Twain said, "The truth is stranger than fiction." The same is true of the Great Debasement, which began a century ago with the creation of the Federal Reserve and income tax. The result, today's dollar retains just 2 cents of its original buying power. Yes, progressive politicians have engineered the largest wealth confiscation in history, creating in essence a fourth branch of government. Learn what must be done to preserve your money if the dollar crashes. The good news is Swiss America is offering the Great Debasement, a $20 value free of charge for this special radio offer.
800-818-3967. 800-818-3967. 800-818-3967. Call Swiss America now for a free DVD. 800-818-3967.
Hello, my name is Fred Fleitz and I'm the managing editor of Lignet. You've probably seen our name preceding some of the stories you read on Newsmax or heard Lignet referenced on Fox News, C-SPAN, or CNN. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what is LigNet? LigNet is an acronym for the Langley Intelligence Group Network, a private Washington, D.C. based service that provides global intelligence, in-depth analysis, and detailed forecasting. LigNet's staff and advisors include former CIA officers, national security experts, presidential advisors, and top-level government officials from around the world. I myself held several national security posts for the U.S. government during my 25-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of State, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Our lead advisor is General Michael Hayden, the former director of the CIA. He is joined by former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton and former chairman of the National Intelligence Council and Special Assistant to President Ronald Reagan Fritz Ehrmann, former U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela Otto Reich, and former clandestine service officer Frederick Russman. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee Peter Hoekstra also join our advisory board staff. Every day our goal is to use our expertise, our resources, and our worldwide staff to take the pulse of the ever-changing political and economic landscape and the threats we face on a daily basis. Whether you are following global events for your portfolio or business, or just interested in the world around you, LigNet provides what you need to know to keep up with global events. There are many. Every day, LigNet members receive the Morning Brief, a daily email that provides summaries and links to our daily analysis to keep you up to date on LigNet's assessments. LigNet members receive unrestricted access to LigNet's secure database of global analysis. All of our special reports, previous analyses, and exclusive video interviews with intelligence insiders are available to members 24 hours a day. But you also get top-notch analysis that resembles the President's Daily Brief, the classified intelligence assessment delivered to the President of the United States every morning. LigNet also sends breaking news emails to our membership list. If there is a development of global proportions or a terror alert, our subscribers are always the first to know. I hope you now have a better understanding of what LigNet is, but more importantly, recognize how truly invaluable LigNet can be. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power.
Join LigNet for $1. Go to lignet.com.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive health care law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already the New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores, or get our special offer at Obamacare911.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling toll-free 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Oh, yes, indeed. We're counting down the hours until the turkey appears on our respective tables, as this is, of course, the day before Thanksgiving. We're here. We're live. Steve Malzberg Show, and we are joined once again in studio, I'm very glad to say, by our friend Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, former prosecutor, now criminal defense attorney. Great to see you, sir.
Nice being with you.
Nice to have you.
Great Thanksgiving
hands are
day,
cold because this is an ice box. I tell all the guests, it doesn't mean I'm sick or anything like that. All right. Big news from the Supreme Court, at least I think so, and I know you think so, where they said that they will hear contraception cases as they relate to Obamacare. And Hobby Lobby is one of those cases, one of those plaintiffs that have said, we have religious freedom, and I'm oversimplifying, you could correct me, but we have you can't force us to provide contraception in a health care plan that we give our employees because on religious grounds we object. Government says, well, you're not a church, you're a business, a for-profit business. You have no religious freedom, basically, is what they're saying. And the Supreme Court says, we'll hear it.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of people are stunned that the Supreme Court is back here again because you remember 2 years ago, very controversial case about the constitutionality of Obamacare.
Thank you, John Roberts, by the way.
Okay, Roberts jumps over and says, it's not a penalty, it's a tax, so this is legal. And a lot of people, the Democrats in particular, have been saying, hey, the Supreme Court has decided this. Why are Republicans trying to kill it again? Well, the Supreme Court's back again now at another issue, and that is, will employers be compelled to provide types of medical services such as, the headline on it is contraception, but when you look at the details, we're talking about the morning after pill, or what a lot of people of religious beliefs say are abortion pills.
Right.
And should a company that has religious beliefs be compelled to provide money to support what they say is a form of abortion? So it's a very controversial issue. The reason the Supreme Court's looking at it is the 10th Circuit, which is a federal court that covers a good portion of the western United States, has ruled one way in a case called the Hobby Lobby case, and another court, the Third Circuit, which covers New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, went the other way. So we got different laws in different parts of the country, so the Supreme Court has to straighten it out.
And this will take place, next year at some point, correct? They'll
yes.
have the arguments next year?
That's right, and they just accepted it for review, and, it caused a lot of surprise, I think, that they did.
Where do you think? I mean, it's impossible to tell. It's impossible to tell if we were sitting here after the arguments and waiting for the decision, but based on your knowledge of this court and where they've been before, on this issue, on other issues relating to freedom of religion, where do you think they might decide? Well, the snapshot in the press of this has been it's about corporations, and is a corporation a person? And the Supreme Court has previously said it is. Citizens United, that big case that allowed corporations to fund political candidates, said basically that corporations are persons. Now, the next issue is, if a corporation is a person, can a corporation have a religious belief? Right. Now, frankly, Steve, I find it hard to believe that the court would go that far because, let's face it, if a corporation had a religious belief, it would be in money. Right, it wouldn't be in anything that we think of as religion. But the snapshot in the press about this case is totally inaccurate because it's not What are they missing?
Well, what they're missing is, I don't think anybody seriously believes that the court will think a corporation can have religious beliefs. The court is looking at a law that the Obama administration supported, which was called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Now, follow me on this. It was so controversial when Obamacare was passed, and it became apparent that, for instance, the Roman Catholic Church would have to fund insurance that would allow the morning after pill, or this what people think is an abortion pill.
Here in the private
That's
sector.
right. Yeah. And contraception, which is against Catholic belief. So the Catholic Church and a lot of other large religious institutions put pressure on Congress and the president to create an exception for not-for-profit corporations so that they could would refuse to provide this kind of coverage. Now, they had to do this because there are so many big Catholic hospitals and religious hospitals around the country. What would happen if they closed down because it's contrary to religious belief? So they built this exception into the law, and they said if you're a not-for-profit and there's a religious belief that's central to your religion, we'll give you an exception to the law. Well, now along comes two companies. One, Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby founded in Oklahoma. Really classic American story. Founded in a guy's garage, expands nationwide. He's got 13,000 employees now. The company donates 10% of its profits to charity every year. So they're not doing this because they're on the cheap. They're doing this this opposition to funding
out of
this
moral
law,
belief.
Right? Out of moral belief.
And they're threatening that they'll be fined. The fining will take them out of business, and they would close down rather than acquiesce to this law.
Exactly. Now jump to the other side of the country, Pennsylvania. We have this company, Conestoga Wood, Mennonite company, owned by very, very devout religious people. And they have the same problem. They say, hey, this is against our religious belief. But they go before the court and say, hey, you have this law that not-for-profits get a buy, but because we are for-profit corporations, we don't. And the court in the past has said, if you're going to make that kind of a distinction, you have to be able to show that there's what's called a compelling governmental interest.
You mean if the government is going to make that distinction?
That's right.
Okay.
As they do by compelling. See, what the government's doing is they're saying you have to provide coverage to your employees, and if you do, you have to provide this kind of coverage. Yeah, I shouldn't say you have to supply coverage. You don't have to supply coverage. But if you do, you got to pay for contraceptives. Now, why is that? Why do you have to pay for contraceptives, and in particular for the morning after pill? So they're now trying to establish, the government is, the Justice Department, the Obama administration, that there's a compelling government interest that we have to force coverage for the morning after pill. So I think that's where the court is going to have its focus. Are these companies being discriminated against in a way that the not-for-profits are being permitted to walk away from this exception?
Well, it seems that obvious there's a double standard. So do they just have to prove that they are being treated differently, or do they have to show that there's a no good reason for them to be treated differently?
They have to prove the no good reason.
Yeah.
That's where you get into the compelling state interest.
Right.
You're allowed, for instance, you can have a men's room and a woman's room because the government says, well, that's the way it should be. There's a reason for that. Okay,
so we can. I don't want to go there.
Maybe I'm going down the wrong road.
No, that'll stop soon too.
Or we can deprive prisoners of free speech because they might riot. All right. So there's a compelling government interest. They might try to escape. So now you got to show what's the compelling government interest.
To give these people, to make these people provide morning after pills.
Right. When just because they make a profit, as opposed to Catholic hospitals or other religious hospitals that don't make a profit. What's the difference?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to articulate the difference.
It's not like we're talking about colonoscopies.
Right.
We're talking about birth control pills.
Now let me throw one other thing into the mix that I think is really bizarre.
We got a minute and a half. Go ahead. Yeah.
Scalia, the bane of the liberals. They hate him, all right? And Scalia may be the one who saves this law for the Obama administration. I'll tell you why.
I think I couldn't take it, but you go ahead.
I know it's really hard to take. But Scalia in 1990 wrote a decision in a case called Employment Division versus Smith. All right. Now, in that case, an American Indian, or as we now say Native American, was denied the right to collect unemployment benefits because he was using peyote, a hallucinogen, for religious ceremonies.
Okay.
Scalia said, you cannot allow a religious belief to be superior to the law of the land, and he denied the benefits to the Indian.
But he could still,
the Native American.
Could still legally vote the other way. Is that a precedent?
Well, it's a precedent.
Would it restrict his vote?
Well, no, he could change his mind and vote differently, or come up with some rationale as to why this is different with a Native American than with religious organizations.
Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. Always a pleasure. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at global warming and what some countries want from us. And by the way, EPA, they're getting ready a whole new slew of regulations that could put them in your backyard if you have any body of water. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
The Steve
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Judging from everything you hear, you think all cholesterol is bad, but that's not really true. You need a certain amount of cholesterol to maintain good health. The problem is that too much cholesterol in your blood contributes to a plaque, a fatty substance that narrows the coronary arteries that feed blood flow to your heart. Picture your coronary arteries as a 4-lane highway. If one lane becomes blocked, traffic still flows well. 2 lanes, no major problem. But if a 3rd lane becomes blocked, that spells trouble. It's the same way with your coronary arteries. And when plaque slows their blood flow to your heart, this can even cause a heart attack. The good news is that when it comes to cholesterol, lifestyle changes can pay off big time. Even a small reduction in plaque can be like opening up another highway lane. Suddenly, blood flow that was stalled can go forward again. Changing your lifestyle does not have to be hard. And in fact, here are 3 ways to help you start lowering your cholesterol. Snack on nuts. Nuts are probably one of the easiest and tastiest ways to lower cholesterol. Walnuts and almonds are among the best. Bulk up your diet with fiber. Choose whole fruits instead of a fruit juice, brown rice instead of white, and if you're eating a baked potato, be sure to leave the skin on. Choose fish. Fish contains cholesterol-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, and you may be forced to watch helplessly as you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, all while your home's value is eradicated. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer believes we will soon stare down a secret crisis that will rival the Great Depression. It was Wiedemer's 2005 book, America's Bubble Economy, that warned of coming meltdowns in our housing and stock markets. Washington did not heed his call, and folks on Main Street lost $50 trillion from the recession. His New York Times best-selling book, Aftershock, predicted our federal debt and dollar would be the next bubbles to burst. And now Robert Wiedemer has released a startling video with shocking evidence the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Join us at Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. The UN climate talks, and it seems like there's always UN climate talks, doesn't it? Notwithstanding the fact that the temperature hasn't gone up in 15 years or so, and there are predictions that the temperature will not go up and, in fact, decrease over the next 20 or 25 years. But they're still full steam ahead with global warming and all that kind of stuff, man-made. And a block of 132 countries left the Warsaw Conference after us kind of rich nations, I guess, refused to discuss climate change. Us giving money to the rest of the world because of climate change until after 2015. After 2015, how about after 2115? Anyway, joining us right now to talk about all of this is Steve Gorham, Executive Director of Climate Science Coalition of America. And hello there, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
How are you?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy everything.
Yep. Great.
All right.
Yeah,
well, let's talk about this. Representatives of most of the world walked out of these talks. I'm shocked, quite frankly, that the United States didn't join them. I'm quite frankly shocked that we don't want to pony up to them right now and want to wait till after 2015. But talk about what the point of contention actually was.
Yeah, this has been building for several years now. As I think you know, the Framework Convention on Climate Change of the United Nations meets every year and has these conferences. 195 nations, roughly 195 nations attended in Warsaw, Poland, to discuss, they're working toward a treaty in 2015 that would put mandatory emissions cuts on all the nations of the earth. And many are not really interested to agree with that. But in the 2010 Cancun conference, the delegates agreed that the largest share of historical global emissions of greenhouse gases originated in the developing countries. And then, matter of fact, in 2009, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said, quote, "We acknowledge now with President Obama that we have made mistakes in the United States, and we, along with other developed countries, have contributed most significantly to the problem we face with climate change." So the industrialized nations have admitted that they have caused this so-called man-made global warming problem. And now all the developed nations want them to pony up for this. First, there's $100 billion a year climate fund that's meant to be a transfer from the industrialized nations to the developing nations. But even beyond that, they were talking at this conference about a Warsaw mechanism, which would provide loss and damage every time there was a natural disaster in a developing nation.
Right.
So, for example, this recent Hurricane Haiyan that hit Philippines, if this mechanism was in place, they would look to the United States for mandatory monetary damage when such an event happened. And when the industrialized nations didn't agree with it in the middle of the conference, 132 developing nations walked out, at least for a day or two. So it's really gone down the primrose path.
Yeah. All right. So where did it? How did it all end? Was everybody huggy and kissy? Because this ended a little while ago.
Well, they all came back in and they got some language. I think they're talking about nations have to sign up for contributions, not commitments. But you know, this is the sort of thing. Some of these people are professional delegates. They do this every year, and they go to places like Bali or Cancun. And they like to keep this thing going, so they always come back with some sort of an agreement. But the big thing is they're all ignoring the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is that we've not had global warming for 17 years now.
Right.
And if movie detective Dirty Harry was a climate scientist, he'd say, your climate models ain't making it.
Well, Steve, and we're talking to Steve Gorham here on the Steve Malzberg Show, Executive Director of Climate Science Coalition of America. I mean, they can't. What are they going to do? Fold up their tents and go home? In fact, even here in this country, there's a report out today that the Daily Caller that the Obama administration, EPA, they're working on rolling out hundreds of environmental regulations, including major regulations that would limit emissions from power plants, expand their authority to bodies of water on private property, and this is all under the guise of climate change and global warming when there is none.
Yeah, it's really amazing how many policies. If you go down and you read the actual regulation from the EPA or the statute, at the basis of a whole lot of things is this idea that man is causing dangerous climate change. Corporate average fuel economy standards, for example, the press talks about mileage, 54.5 miles per gallon. But if you read that EPA and Department of Transportation mandate that's coming up, everything inside it is greenhouse gas emissions. High-speed rail, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that are driving our economy and changing our industry, all based on the idea that we can control the climate, which is a little bit of nonsense.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of nonsense, obviously, and unfortunately, I don't know. Where do we go from here? I mean, when the UN report, when they were figuring out how to address the fact that the Earth hadn't warmed for 15 or 17 years, and now there's a new report that's out recently where a former female who was a real global warming believer now says she believes that the Earth's not going to warm again for another, at least 15, 17, 20 years. It might even cool. How are they going to keep this up? I mean, how are they going to just deny the facts as they've been doing?
Well, it is really remarkable that they are, and you're talking about the fifth assessment report that came out in September.
Yes.
And they really didn't mention it. As a matter of fact, early leaked documentation and charts from that report graphed the climate models and then the actual warming and showed that the models were way off, but that didn't make it into the report. And I think you're referring to Dr. Judith Curry at Georgia Tech University.
Yep.
And she's quite courageous. She has switched sides when she saw that that the empirical data was not supporting the models.
Yeah.
And she's become very outspoken. And a lot of people who are believers in the theory of man-made warming have attacked her.
Well, that's to be expected. Hey, Steve, have a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
All right, Steve, I'm always at your service.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Steve Gorham, Executive Director of Climate Science Coalition of America, telling it like it is. All right, folks, we are going to be talking when we come back with Clint Hill, the former U.S. Secret Service agent, the man who famously jumped onto JFK's limo after he was shot in Dallas. He's got a great book out with some other Secret Service agents. Can't wait to talk to him right here. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. Prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind, to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life. with Prostate Revive.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive healthcare law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already a New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores, or get our special offer at Obamacare311.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare311.com. That's Obamacare311.com.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show. No. This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Of course, we just recognized the 50th anniversary of the assassination of JFK, and one man who we all saw over and over and over and over again in that video that we've watched, over the years. A man who we had not heard from until recently. He's now author of a book that involves other former U.S. Secret Service agents, 5 Days in November, and he is the man who jumped on the back of the limo. He was assigned with guarding the First Lady on that day in Dallas. We are joined right now by Clint Hill. Mr. Hill, it is a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here.
Is it cathartic in any way? I mean, after all these years to be talking about this, and did you talk about this much away from the microphones with family, with friends, or was it something you didn't discuss at all?
We never discussed it at all. Even among the agents, I never talked about it with my family or my friends until about 2009, when a young lady named Lisa McCubbin, who was assisting another former agent in writing a book called The Kennedy Detail, came to me because they needed some assistance in writing about what happened in Dallas. And I reluctantly agreed to assist them, and that began a process where I was able to unload some emotional baggage that I had held within myself for a number of years, and it proved to be very emotional, beneficial to me, and very cathartic, and I am very pleased that I actually decided to do that.
Well, I know that we're all pleased that we're getting to hear from you about this moment in history. Certainly, were you how hard were you on yourself? In the days, weeks, months, and years afterward?
Well, I took a great deal of blame for what had happened. I felt a great deal of guilt, because I felt that I should have been able to do more. And so over a period of years from 1963 until about 1982, I was very, very hard on myself. And I gradually began to improve. And then by 1990, I went back to Dallas. And that was the best thing I could have done.
Now, you were assigned to guard the First Lady. You tell some very interesting stories about that, but talk about hearing what you heard and jumping on. We could put the picture up of you jumping on the limo. Of course, something we've all seen. How did that happen? What are you thinking? What are you seeing?
Well, as we traveled through Dallas, we got to a point where we were going down Elm Street, right in front of the Texas School Book Depository, approaching an expressway. And I was on the car immediately behind the presidential vehicle on the left-hand side of the running board in the forward position, and I had been scanning to my left, and I heard this explosive noise over my right shoulder. And I immediately started to turn towards that noise, but I only got as far as the presidential vehicle, and I saw the president's reaction. He was seated in the right rear seat of that vehicle, and I saw that he grabbed at his throat. He moved to his left. I knew that was very unusual. Something was wrong, and so I jumped from my position running toward the presidential vehicle in an attempt to get up on top of the back of it to form a shield or barrier there so that no further damage could be done to the president.
When you say you grabbed his throat, was that from the one shot that hit him, or was that the first shot that didn't hit him, or what? I mean, if from what I understand, he suffered a grave head wound, and we're all familiar with those pictures as well. So at what point can you explain that he grabbed his throat and moved to his side?
That was the very first shot, and that was actually the first shot did, in fact, hit him. First shot hit him into just below the neckline.
Okay.
And to the right of the spinal column and exited through the throat. And that was the very first shot that was fired.
Right. And now, again, pointing out, by the way, we're talking to Clint Hill, former U.S. Secret Service agent, the man who was assigned on that fateful day in Dallas to guard the First Lady and protect the First Lady. And he's the co-author of 5 Days in November, just an amazing book. Probably of all of them that have been written from the perspective of the Secret Service. It's just a fascinating read, very educational. Tell us about your first contact, words, glances, facial expressions with the First Lady, either on your part or her part.
Well, as I approached the vehicle itself, the presidential vehicle, there was a third shot that hit the president in the head. And it was very explosive in nature. It entered the right rear of the head, and lower in the back of the head, and exited the upper right rear quadrant of the skull. But it was so explosive that it caused an eruption of material, and that material came over myself to the rear of the car, Mrs. Kennedy. It was blood, brain matter, and bone fragments. And when that happened, Mrs. Kennedy got up in the trunk of the car trying to retrieve some of that material. She was trying to gather it together. I got up in the back of the car. She didn't know I was there, but I got my hands on her and I put her in the back seat. And when I did that, why, the president's body fell farther to its left with his head in her lap. And then I could see his eyes were fixed. I could see the hole in the upper right rear of the skull. None of the brain matter in that area was still there. It was all destroyed. So I assumed it was fatal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mrs. Kennedy had very little to say. I mean, she was in shock. And what she did say was, I had his brains in my hand. And then she said, oh, Jack, what have they done? Jack, oh, Jack, I love you, Jack. And that was all she did say.
And, of course, she would say more to you later on. First of all, she wouldn't, I believe, leave the body of her husband at the hospital. Talk about that. But then also later on, she selflessly came up to you and asked you about how you were. Talk about those things.
Well, yes, we were on board Air Force One when that happened. And, we were about to witness the swearing in of Vice President Johnson to become the next president. When Mrs. Kennedy sent word that she wanted to talk to me, she was seated in the rear of the aircraft near the president's casket, and I was forward of the aircraft. And I then went back through the presidential suite to where she was. And as I approached her, she stood up and grabbed my hand and said, oh, Mr. Hill, what's going to happen to you now? She was very concerned about me, and I said, I'll be okay, Mrs. Kennedy, I'll be okay. She was concerned about how I was reacting to what had happened, but also to the fact that she knew that the administrations had now changed. It was no longer the Kennedy administration, it was the Johnson administration, and she was concerned about what my next assignment would be.
Did it hit you at the time that in the midst of all this, that she summoned you to the back and asked you these questions, or did it take a while longer? And if so, how long before you said, my goodness, this woman did an amazingly, remarkably unselfish, caring thing for me?
Well, it hit me right away because I was very surprised, and I knew that she was about to have to stand next to Vice President Johnson as he was sworn in. And she really hadn't changed herself physically to prepare for that. She hadn't cleaned up. She was covered with blood. And so it was extremely surprising to me, but very typical of her. She was always concerned about how I was doing or how the other agents were doing.
We're talking to Clint Hill, former U.S. Secret Service agent, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Do you have your own theories? Did you follow and believe the Warren Commission? And do you believe that that there was a connection, at least with Ruby? And were you surprised that Oswald? How'd you react? First of all, let me ask you this, 'cause I'm asking a million questions. How did you react when Oswald was shot?
Well, I didn't find out till it had happened. I mean, it was over a little while before we found out, because we were busy at the White House transporting the body of the president from the White House to the U.S. Capitol when that took place.
Right.
So I was very shocked when it happened and disappointed, because we really wanted to interrogate him. We wanted to get into his head and find out why, what was his motive, and we never had that opportunity.
Did Mrs. Kennedy, were you still with her at the time? And if so, how did she take the news of Oswald's assassination?
I don't even know that anybody bothered to tell her at the time that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, I'm sure, she found out later, but
sure.
She was so involved at that particular time, accompanying her body of her husband, the president,
sure,
up to the U.S. Capitol.
What about the kids at the time? I mean, how much of if you know, if you were privy to it, how much of the hands-on was done by her, telling the kids, preparing the kids? I mean, or did she have a lot of help in doing that?
Well, the initial time that the children were notified, Caroline specifically, because at the time, John was not quite 3, and Caroline was not quite 6.
Right.
So they were very young. But the nanny, Maud Shaw, was the one who actually advised Caroline of what had happened.
Who was that, sir?
Maud Shaw, S-H-A-W.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
She was the children's nanny.
I got you. Now, so let me ask you, you were there. I mean, so you heard the bullets, you heard the shots, you saw the shots, the effect of the shots. Do you agree with what's been put forth as the official, the Warren Commission, I guess, is the standard bearer for the explanation, or do you doubt that? And do you have your own theories of who was behind it or what might have happened? Or tell me.
Well, I know that there were only 3 shots fired that day in Dealey Plaza. I know that all 3 shots did come from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. They were all fired through the same rifle by the same individual, Lee Harvey Oswald. There isn't any question about that.
And
I do differ with the Warren Commission about what happened to the second shot. I think the second shot was the one that hit the governor. So did the governor, and so did his wife.
Okay, as opposed to the bullet going through the president and hitting the governor?
Yes, I don't believe in the magic bullet theory.
Yeah. When you look at the protection from afar that our presidents have today, do you believe they're, I mean, God forbid, but more vulnerable, less vulnerable than obviously they don't ride really in open limos, but they do walk. Obama and Biden and others have walked the route from inauguration to the White House. So how do you feel security has improved over the years?
Well, I think the challenges for the Secret Service in providing that protection is greater today than it ever has been. And I think that they do a remarkable good job considering all the things they have to face. But there's always that one chance in a million that it could happen.
One more question very quickly. The limousine, you came face-to-face with it again at you were giving a speech at, I don't know if it was at a museum somewhere around the country. Is that the first time you had seen it? And we got less than a minute. How did it feel? From what I read, you didn't really look directly at it while you were talking.
Well, I was out in Michigan, at Dearborn, Michigan, the Ford Museum, where they have the limousine house. I did see it. It was not the first time I'd seen it. I'd seen it since then, so I was used to seeing it. Okay. But it's still a very vivid reminder of what had happened.
Listen, sir, God bless you, and I'm glad you found some peace with this, and thank you for sharing. And again, folks, the book, 5 Days in November, just a riveting read. And thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving, sir.
Thank you very much, and the same to you and your listeners.
Thank you. That's Clint Hill. What a Pleasure to be able to speak with him. We're coming back, folks. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.
This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks, and I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. You can finally have that room you've always wanted with our total basement finishing system. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again.
Call now for your free basement inspection at 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794. Learn how to waterproof your basement now. Call this number, 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54 with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today in this free offer. We are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
Join the millions who read Newsmax magazine every month.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, final segment of hour number 2 on this Wednesday. Of course, we'll run a best of on Thursday and Friday of the Steve Malzberg Show. So we'll reconvene live back here on Monday, God willing, as they say. Also, just so you know, I'm scheduled to be on Morning Joe on MSNBC on Monday. I don't have a time yet for you, though, so I don't know what to tell you. Set your DVR. Is that what it? DVR? Yeah. Set your DVR from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern on MSNBC for Monday. I don't know. Will Mark Halpern be there? I don't know. I hope he is. I mean, I'm looking forward to a nice exchange, a fun time, and seeing Joe there and meeting Mika. I don't think I've met Mika yet. Anyway, it'll be interesting, so tune in. Barack Obama, and when I heard this, I famously thought of, was it Memorial Day? Yeah, it must have been Memorial Day. And when I think his first Memorial Day back in 2009, first one as president, when he said, "I see many of our fallen heroes here today." I guess nobody told him a fallen hero is a soldier who made the ultimate sacrifice and could not be there because they gave their life. But he saw many of our fallen heroes here today is what he said. And that's a mistake. Kind of the same words, but in my mind, a completely different meaning. If George W. Bush had ever said, or if I had ever said, but especially a president, let's talk about presidents, what you're going to hear Barack Obama say in a second, oh my goodness. But you haven't heard this at all. You will not hear this at all for the most part, especially, nobody's going to object to it on the left. Here's Barack Obama speaking before an audience of supporters on Tuesday in California, talking about immigration reform. This will be cut 24. Let's listen to cut 24.
As I was getting a tour of DreamWorks, I didn't ask, but just looking at faces, I could tell there were some folks who are here, not because they were born here, because they want to be here. And they bring extraordinary talents to the United States, and that's part of what makes America special. And that's part of what, by the way, makes California special, because it's always been this magnet of dreamers and strivers.
Okay. Dreamers and strivers. He could tell by looking at people that they're immigrants. He could tell by looking at faces that they're immigrants. Do you know how racist and xenophobic that would be if it came from George W. Bush, if it came from Ronald Reagan, if it came from a talk show host on the right? Hey, look at these people. They look like immigrants. Oh, you racist, bigoted xenophobe, you. But there's our president walking around DreamWorks in California, and he could tell. Hey, these people, I could tell just by looking at faces. You weren't born here. You weren't born here. Huh? What is that? What is that? What is Dr. Obama talking about? Is he going to now start to diagnose their ailments? Is that the first step? Figuring, oh, you're an immigrant. I can tell by looking at you, so you need to take give him a bottle of water before he faints. I'm sorry. If that ever came out of the mouth of George W. Bush, I was in, Texas recently looking around, and I could tell just by looking at them they were immigrants. Whoa! Obama says it doesn't mean a thing. And neither does this, apparently. Let's go to cut 25.
And, by the way, thousands of Californians are signing up every day for new health care plans all across the state. So even as we're getting this darn website up to speed, and it's getting better, states like California are proving the law works. People want the financial security of health insurance. And even if you're already insured, reach out to a friend and neighbor who's not and help them get covered.
Okay, we played way too much of that. My fault. I don't know why but yeah, it's getting better. That's the main point. It's getting better. Getting better. But I probably should have gone straight from I could tell just by looking at these people, they're immigrants, to this. According to a report in the New York Post, President Obama allegedly responded to a letter that he received from a Texas school teacher who was concerned about the negative impact of Obamacare that it might have on the president's political position by referring to conservative Americans. This is the president referring to conservative Americans as teabaggers. Teabaggers. The bill has caused such a derisive, and toxic environment, wrote Thomas Ritter, a fifth-grade teacher at Sally B. Elliott Elementary School in Irving, Texas. The reality is any citizen that disagrees with your administration is targeted and ridiculed. Ritter added that he was afraid to write the president in the first place because he believed that he could face retribution. I watched you make fun of teabaggers and your press secretary make fun of Miss Sarah Palin, blah, blah, blah. The president replied, I do have to challenge you, though, on the notion that any citizen who disagrees with me has been targeted and ridiculed, or that I have made fun of teabaggers. So he called them teabaggers, according to this letter, and I have a copy of this letter from the New York Post in my hand. So, yeah, but again, it's all right. He's Barack Obama. He could do and say anything he wants. And if you question him, you're a racist. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and Radio.
Do you have trouble remembering things you've known for years? Do you want to maintain your mental edge, support your memory, focus, and attention? After extensive research, Dr. Russell Blaylock discovered 4 essential nutrients that help sustain optimal brain function. Dr. Russell Blaylock then personally formulated Crescio, the dietary supplement containing these 4 brain boosters that promote brain cognitive health, improve learning and retention. Crescio supports brain circulation and provides antioxidant protection. And now you can receive a 30-day supply of Crescio. All you pay is a $4.95 shipping fee. Visit Crescio.com/special. Act now and you'll also be given instant access to our downloadable special report, Nature's Brain Boosters, Essential Nutrients for Peak Mental Performance. Give your brain the healthy support it needs. Learn how you can receive your 30-day supply at Crescio.com/special. That's CRESCEO.com/special. Crescio.com/special.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. Prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Obamacare, President Obama's massive healthcare law, is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already a New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores, or get our special offer at Obamacare311.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare311.com. That's Obamacare311.com.
Have you hit a brick wall with your weight loss? Does your weight management plan need an extra edge for success? If so, listen up. Metabio is the revolutionary weight loss breakthrough designed to help you reach your goal weight as part of your diet and exercise program. Metabio is the premium nutritional supplement power-packed with 5 high-quality ingredients. When used as part of a healthy lifestyle, each component is formulated to help you reach your goals and maintain your optimal weight and wellness. It supports healthy metabolism and promotes fat loss. Now, learn how you can try a 30-day supply of Metabio. Just cover a $4.95 shipping fee. Visit themetabio.com/special. Act now and also receive instant access to our downloadable special report, a practical guide to healthy weight management. Try it now at themetabio.com/special. That's the METABIO.com/special. While supplies last. themetabio.com/special.
A hot new book by Craig Smith argues that the greenback is now at high risk thanks to our spendthrift politicians. Mark Twain said, "The truth is stranger than fiction." The same is true of the Great Debasement, which began a century ago with the creation of the Federal Reserve and income tax. The result, today's dollar retains just 2 cents of its original buying power. Yes, progressive politicians have engineered the largest wealth confiscation in history, creating in essence a fourth branch of government. Learn what must be done to preserve your money if the dollar crashes. The good news is Swiss America is offering the Great Debasement, a $20 value free of charge for this special radio offer.
800-818-3967. 800-818-3967. 800-818-3967. Call Swiss America now for a free DVD. 800-818-3967.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. You need to watch out because thousands of new Obamacare rules are currently being implemented and few know what the law says or does. Listen to what Senator Max Baucus, one of the authors of the Obamacare law, recently said.
I tell you, I just see a huge train wreck coming down and I don't see any results yet. I just see a huge train wreck.
He's right. So protect yourself from this train wreck. Get the #1 bestseller, the Obamacare Survival Guide. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. Join more than 500,000 Americans who have their copy. Get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling toll-free 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks. I think they focused on the death panels, which will be coming. Call them what you will. Rationing is part of it, and
I agree. Huge. It's going to be a huge issue, and that's something else about which the president was not fully forthcoming and straightforward.
All right, so you believe that there will be rationing, aka death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
All right, there you go. One more for good luck. I promise we won't play that again for quite some time. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Final hour before we leave you for Thanksgiving weekend. And joining us right now, as he always does at this time, on this day and this hour, is Charles Hurt, columnist, Washington Times. Hello, Charles.
Happy Thanksgiving, Steve.
Happy
Am
Thanksgiving.
I allowed to say that, actually, or is that offensive to somebody? To say Happy Thanksgiving?
Well, as long as you acknowledge that the Pilgrims were evil and the good Indians were. Oh, I'm sorry. Could I say Indians?
No, come on. Now I'm offended.
How about this? How about Redskins? Go Redskins. How's that? Now I'm really in trouble.
I think we've offended everybody.
I know. It's also Hanukkah tonight, believe it or not.
Oh, happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, so the first day is tomorrow, and that's not going to happen again for, I believe, 6,000 years.
Oh, I read about this. That's right.
Yeah. So it's once in
quite a calendar event.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so listen. So I want you to weigh in on this this admission by Mark Halpern that he didn't utter the word death panels, but I've been using the analogy because he's trying to backtrack that. Did you kill the girl? I stuck a knife in her. I buried the body. I ran from the police. I hid because I didn't want to get the death sentence, but I never said I murdered her.
He quickly became an expert in the iPad lingo because I noticed that he started tweeting.
My bad.
Trying to sort of massage what he said, but as is always the case in Washington, a scandal is when somebody accidentally tells the truth, and he did. Of course, there's going to be healthcare rationing. That's how it works. Just like there's, whenever your tax dollars are spent, there is rationing. Otherwise, why would you be paying taxes in the first place?
And
there's going to be a set amount of money that can be spent on saving people's lives and making them better. So and if the government is in charge, they're going to be in control of determining who gets it. Therefore, i.e., who lives and who dies, i.e., Sarah Palin's death panels.
Right, and Charles, I found out today, along with maybe some already knew this, including you, but I found out through, I think it was a Fox report, that guess what? The 51, the filibuster going bye-bye in the Senate means that Obama could appoint as many of the 15 members of that panel who decide who lives and dies, make them as radical left-wing as he wants, and all he needs is 51 votes to get him on.
Well, and Steve, talking to some people that are far smarter about Obamacare who actually read it when it was written, very smart people. That was the first thing that they leapt on is the fact that with this panel, as well as with the D.C. courts, it's going to pave the way to stack that panel, stack the courts, and basically remove the last obstacle that President Obama has to do anything he wants to with this health care law.
It is so scary, Charles. It is so frightening. It really is. I don't want to run short on time, though. When you wrote about something very important today in your column at the Washington Times, and I think it bears it's certainly addressing and giving it some time. And that is, as we sit here on the eve of Thanksgiving, and you write, let us all give thanks for George Mason and the Bill of Rights. And that's, like you said, he's one of our overlooked founding fathers. But talk about why you chose to write about him.
Well, it's interesting because I think that we talk so much about freedom and talk about democracy and stuff like that, but we forget how totally radical it was, this notion that that we weren't born living under the thumb, under the suppression of a king or a master or a monarch or some kind of higher, a government authority that just inherently had control of us. These guys were writing for the first time. George Mason, in his Virginia Declaration of Rights, said, no, that's not the case. Our rights are granted to us by God. Therefore, no institution, no human on earth can take it away. And the other thing that George Mason, for a number of reasons, has sort of kind of gone by the wayside, one of the things that he doesn't get credit for is the fact that when he wrote the Virginia Declaration of Rights and when he inspired the Declaration of Independence and inspired the Bill of Rights, he knew at that time that he was laying the foundation to abolish slavery from the civilized world.
Right.
He knew it, and he fought against continuing the trade in slaves. The British monarchy refused to allow Virginia to stop the trade in slaves, even as they maintained, the legality of the evil institution of slavery. But George Mason, he knew this was going to end slavery, and he wanted it to. But he doesn't get credit for that. It's just one of the many ways that George Mason is overlooked today. 200 years later. I
think it was a great piece, and I was so anxious to read it, and you're so right, and it needs to be pointed out a lot more than it is, and kudos to you for doing that. Now let's bring it back to reality for the remaining 2 minutes here, and that is that you say not born under the thumb of a king or a ruler or a dictator or whatever. Nonetheless, we do have an unprecedented leader, unprecedented in the way he decides to enforce laws, not enforce laws, and do it all against the Constitution and against the law, I believe, as so do many others. And now again today, although it might not affect that many, but another dictate. Small businesses, their website is not ready and won't be ready, so for another year they get a delay. It's just another day, another dictate, another unilateral move circumventing Congress, and another interpretation of a law which this man is not allowed to do, but he does it.
There's no nice or polite way of putting it. It's another violation of the Constitution, and he has made it he's set the precedent now, and he does it with abandon. And I don't know, I haven't really studied the presidency throughout history as closely as I should, but I can tell you this, Steve, I cannot think of another example of a president who has so regularly and so willingly flouted the Constitution, simply made up what he wants to make up out of the laws. Obviously you can look at the Civil War with Abraham Lincoln lifting habeas corpus, and that was obviously not allowed under the Constitution. But at the same time, it was a war. It was wartime, and a lot of these things that we see going on occur. With other presidents going outside of the bounds of the Constitution. It's usually during wartime. I don't know of another example where you have a president in peacetime just completely shredding the Constitution because for political purposes. Can you think of anything?
No,
like that?
No. And I like you. I'm not a presidential scholar, but certainly I could. We would have heard about it if Reagan did it. We would have heard about it if Bush did it in 8 years, and and we would have heard about it if Clinton was doing it. He would have been. That would have been included in impeachment charges. But none of that is the case. Hey. Let's enjoy our turkeys, and let's reconvene in a week and see how many more laws the president unilaterally interprets between now and then.
Indeed.
All right,
Happy
Charles.
Thanksgiving,
Thank
Steve.
you very much for everything, and I appreciate it. That's Charles Hurt, ladies and gentlemen, columnist, Washington Times. Check it out at WashingtonTimes.com, his piece on George Mason, very informative. When we come back, the wife of a pastor still imprisoned in Iran, Steve Malzberg's show.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, and you may be forced to watch helplessly as you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, all while your home's value is eradicated. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer believes we will soon stare down a secret crisis that will rival the Great Depression. It was Wiedemer's 2005 book, America's Bubble Economy, that warned of coming meltdowns in our housing and stock markets. Washington did not heed his call, and folks on Main Street lost $50 trillion from the recession. His New York Times best-selling book, Aftershock, predicted our federal debt and dollar would be the next bubbles to burst. And now Robert Wiedemer has released a startling video with shocking evidence the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Join us at Aftershock2013.com. Aftershock2013.com.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084. 250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show. No. This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. When John Kerry and our government sat down and negotiated with the thugs in Iran, They ignored the blood, the U.S. blood on the hands of the Iranian regime. And they also ignored 3 Americans who are imprisoned there. And that includes, of course, Pastor Saeed Abedini, who his crime apparently is that he's a Christian and an American, and went back over there and has been imprisoned. And his trail is not a pleasant trail to have traveled. From the reports that I've seen, he's been imprisoned in one of the worst prisons in Iran. Joining us right now is his very loyal wife, Nagma Abedini, and also their lawyer, Matthew Clark. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for covering this issue.
Well, I think it's very important. We've covered it before with the Seculos, and I'd like to say I'm shocked and surprised, but with this administration, nothing shocks and surprises me. But Mrs. Abedini, please tell me how you found out that. Let me ask you this: Were you led to believe at any point that this would come up in negotiations? Have you heard anything from the State Department or others? And when it was not brought up and a deal was done, did anybody call you then? Tell me about any contacts you've had with our government regarding your husband since you've known that negotiations were taking place.
Well, we have continually asked them and felt that they were seriously considering bringing Said up as a precondition to further negotiations. Mr. Sekulow, who is the chief counsel and at the ACLJ, who are the lawyers who are, representing us, specifically sent a letter asking Secretary of State John Kerry to demand for Said's release and the other Americans' release before further negotiation as a precondition. So we, I felt that our government was going to do that, and I watched as President Obama and Secretary of State John Kerry made their speech, and there was no mention of Said. I got many tweets and messages saying, why was Said not mentioned, from many Americans. And then we got a report, that an actual report came out that Said was not part of the discussion. And it was heartbreaking because we had the best leverage. And to know that my government was shaking hands with the captors, my husband's captors, who were torturing him without demanding his release and keeping Iran accountable on its continuous violations of human rights, was horrific. To know that they shook hands with Iran, they didn't mention, they did not keep Iran accountable for their continuous violation of human rights and for keeping these Americans in their prison and torturing them.
So I watched one of the State Department officials or negotiating officials or someone involved with it from the administration interviewed on CNN, and Wolf Blitzer actually asked about the 3 Americans, and then mentioned your husband by saying an American pastor, and the negotiators, we brought them up. Oh yes, we brought it up, and then there was silence, and Wolf said, And he said, we tried, and then he changed the subject, and he said, and Wolf said, well, are you aware of these people? And he said, we're aware of the pastor. Like, didn't even know his name, didn't even have enough respect to call him by name. It's just outrageous. And let me ask you real quick here, Matthew, where do you go from here?
Well, it really is astounding that our government had such an opportunity, a historic opportunity, sitting across the table from the leaders of Iran, and didn't bring up an American citizen who is in prison for his faith. Absolutely astounding and very disappointing. Now, of course, we are urging Congress, members of Congress, to step up and renew sanctions on Iran, continue to put teeth behind sanctions, to bring this issue back to the forefront. We're also urging other nations around the world who have been willing to bring up Pastor Said's case to continue to raise it. Those with diplomatic relations with Iran to continue to raise his case, to urge Iran to free him. It's an ongoing activity. It's ongoing, but it is very disappointing that our own government would not stand up for them when they had the chance, face to face with the Iranian regime.
All right, Matthew, what have you, very quickly, because I want to get back to the pastor's wife to ask her a question before we run out of time. But what, if any, contact has there been between our government and you?
Well, we have.
I mean, on the administration. I don't mean Congress. I mean the administration.
Let us know that they are, as they said publicly, that they have brought him up on the sidelines, on the peripheries, at a staff level. But the highest levels of government had an opportunity to bring him up, and they didn't do it.
Let me ask you, Nagmet. It's the holidays. It's Thanksgiving tomorrow. Christmas is a month away. Tell me what you tell yourself and what you tell your children.
It's painful. It's the most painful time of the year for our family. It's one of the most painful times, and my children have been praying that Daddy would come home alive, and it just shows their heart, their fear as a 5-year-old and 7-year-old. So I honestly don't know what to tell them. I was hoping that our government would not just mention Said, but demand his release. The Iranian government knows they can get away with it. They know that, I was hoping that I would have good news for them for at least Christmas to say Daddy was coming home, but I don't know what the new prison he's at. I don't even know I can promise that he's going to live through this.
And his only crime for that 8-year sentence that he's currently serving is that he's a Christian.
Yes, and they went back. The Iranian government didn't say he broke any law when he was back in 2012. They went back to the year 2000 when he converted to Christianity, when at that time under the government there, the more moderate government at that time under Khatami, it was not even a crime. It was allowed. So they are keeping him illegally. They've in a way kept him hostage, and they know they can get away with it. They know they don't have to answer. They took Said to worst prison on the day they were chanting death to America and made it worse for him.
Yep, and they know that the Christian president here will never say anything about it.
Yes, they know they can get away with it.
All right, listen, to both of you, our hearts are with you, and we pray for your husband, Nagma, and good luck, Matthew. Stay in touch. Matthew Clark, the attorney for the family of Pastor Abedini and his wife, Nagma Abedini, who's with us. God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, folks, we're going to come back. Terrible story, and what our government did not do is just outrageous. Noel Shepard, Malzberg's Media Madness.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited-time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029. 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream. Streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
So, I think they focused on the death panels, which will be coming. Call them what you will. Rationing is part of it. And
I agree. It's huge. It's going to be a huge issue, and that's something else about which the president was not fully forthcoming and straightforward.
All right, so you believe that there will be rationing, aka death panels?
It's built into the plan. It's not like a guess or like a judgment. That's going to be part of how costs are controlled.
All right, I lied earlier, folks, when I said we wouldn't play it anymore today. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Joining us now is our friend Noel Shepard, associate editor of newsbusters.org. Hello, Noel.
Have you been talking to people within the White House? What's up with this lying stuff? You're not supposed to do that. Republicans.
All right, so there's Mark Halpern. I wrote it down a second he said it, and it caused quite a firestorm. And, then he tried to backtrack, but he backtracked, dare I say, half-assed, because, while he said, I never said the word death panels, he went on to go on and say how we need and then defined what we call the death panels would do.
Exactly. So what's important here is backtracking from anything Sarah Palin said, but basically confirming everything that Sarah Palin said. But now he's okay to go back on MSNBC because he said, I never said that. And that's all you need to go back on MSNBC. Now he's fine. So he's covered.
Yeah, well, I saw it this morning. I saw his Kudlow interview as well. But again, even this morning, the whole panel, they were talking about how we need to ration care for the elderly and the sick and how expensive it is. And, they're promoting. And to Halpern's credit, he brings this up and he says, here's another instance where Barack Obama has not been forthcoming. And, when this hits, I'd love to see the media get on board with this, although they did it this morning, and say, maybe your grandfather or your mother or you are living too long because it's not worth keeping you alive.
Well, okay, but, insurance companies to some extent do that. Medicare to some extent, decides what people can get. Medicaid decides what people can get. So this is kind of, unfortunately, a logical extension of the government getting more involved into healthcare, because they're certainly going to say, we can't afford to pay for this, so you either pay for it yourself or sorry. So we're certainly going, Palin was right when she said this. If someone, what's interesting here is no one's ever discussed this. If someone other than Sarah Palin had said that, maybe it wouldn't have gotten so much pushback. I mean, she could say the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and people would say, "Oh, you're racist."
Right,
You know?
right.
So maybe she was the wrong person to come out and make what turns out to be a very, very accurate observation.
Could be. No, it absolutely could be. But again, and this is an offshoot of all this. The nuclear option that was used in the Senate is now going to enable President Obama to make the 15 appointees to this board, a.k.a. death panels, with only 51 votes. So he could pick the most radical, left-wing people who will ration care the most, and all he needs is 51 Democrats, and they're in.
Okay, but here's the upside to the nuclear option. Okay, the beauty is the Democrats pulled this plug or pulled this trigger first. We will eventually get the Senate back, conceivably next November or January 2015. At which point we are going to expand the nuclear option, and if in 2016 we have the president or the White House, then we'll be able to repeal this whole nonsense.
Well,
without having to get 60 votes.
Yeah, but you're assuming a lot when you talk about Republican leadership in this. No, even if we take the Senate, when you're talking about Republican leadership actually doing something, you're assuming a lot.
or let's just look at it. Forget about as it pertains to Obamacare. Just in terms of a future Republican president being able to get things that he wants passed with only 50 votes. Basically, the Democrats have unfortunately, they've just rewritten the Constitution, although the filibuster isn't per se in the Constitution.
Right.
But they've radically just changed the rules in the Senate. And you and I both know now that the finger has been taken out of the dike, there's a lot more water that's going to flow. There are a lot more changes that are going to occur, and we will eventually have the Senate back. I think we take the Senate next November. Frankly, I don't see it going any other way.
I hope you're right. We're talking to Noel Shepard of newsbusters.org. Here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Okay, let's play a little bit of Dan Savage.
Come on, it's right before Thanksgiving.
Gay activist, columnist, MTV guy, lectures in schools. He's got a whole history, in my opinion, of being a bigot and you name it. And here's what he on Bill Maher's HBO show. This is cut 8. Cut 8. All right, we're efforting cut 8.
Now, we think of Hawaii as a kind of a laid-back place, but their Catholic bishop there, I think his name is Bishop Silva, said something about how children who are in gay, adopted by gay parents, have a greater chance of committing suicide. That must be right?
That's total bull. It's confusing children with gay parents with children who are raped by Catholic priests. Sorry. I am just done being lectured about children and their safety by Catholic bishops, priests, cardinals. The Pope himself has let it go. The new Pope, who I kind of dig, has let it go.
Love the new Pope.
Yeah, they dig him and love him, man. That led to an interview that I did yesterday, which you wrote about with Bill Donahue, the head of the Catholic League, who has written to the head of HBO and has written to cardinals and bishops and people of the church. And here's what he's looking for, cut 37. All right.
I hate to always go there, but they don't have moral high ground when they talk about the welfare and safety of children.
Right.
They just don't.
That's not 37.
He does it every single Friday night. There's no other demographic group in this country that you could get away with this kind of impunity, and enough is enough. I do think that once you get all the cardinals, bishops writing to Jeff Beeks over at Time Warner and the board of directors at Time Warner, that hopefully they will try to put the reins on this man. They don't need to bring back the show. The season is ended. The next show doesn't start up until January 17th. Hopefully they'll just cancel the show. You cannot reform Bill Maher. He's an inveterate bigot.
So you're looking for them to let Bill Maher go?
They ought to just simply dump the whole show. There's no defensible argument. They could not come on your show today and make...
All right, so there you go, Noel. So what do you make of this effort to get Bill Maher dumped?
Well, I mean, I think he's got a good point, and that is there is no other demographic group that can be so abused by people such as Maher and Dan Savage and others in the media as Catholics and Catholic priests and cardinals and et cetera, although I think probably white conservative men are close, and white conservative women, if their name begins with Sarah and ends with Palin, is probably pretty close. But it is really quite extraordinary what Maher routinely does and says about, in particular, the Catholic Church, but religion in general. And you're intentionally bringing on this guy, Dan Savage, and setting him up to just tear the church apart and tear. I mean, and what he said about the Pope, what he said about, and you and I are Jewish, but what he said about the Pope, what he said about priests and cardinals was astonishingly offensive. And you know, as soon as I saw it, I knew we were going to jump on it. I referred it to one of the people that does more writing on this issue and loves to write about Savage. I don't like writing about Savage. I find him to be actually more reprehensible than Maher, but less so because most people don't know who the heck he is. But
right.
I'm interested to see where this is going to go. I mean, obviously Donahue has a lot of power. The Catholic League has a lot of power. If he sent this to 400 cardinals or bishops around the country to take a look at, and if they're going to actually put pressure on HBO and Time Warner, it'll be interesting to see what power they've got, if they've got any. So we're going to keep an eye out on this. I mean, and what you had said was, we don't really wish anybody to be fired.
Right.
We're all for freedom of speech, et cetera. But the problem, I think, where things have gone now with freedom of speech is there are people that are allowed to say things about certain people. And then there are others that are not allowed to say much about anybody.
And we're good. Let's segue. Perfect segue. Noel Shepard, associate editor of newsbusters.org. Martin Bashir, who said that someone should defecate and urinate in Sarah Palin's mouth, is still on MSNBC. I never heard a word from management. I never heard a word about, he never got, they say he's on vacation. It was pre-planned. Right. So whether it is or not, they're not coming out and saying we suspended him. It's reprehensible. Management said nothing. He's still on. Then you have, on the other hand, you have Alec Baldwin, who, I mean, how they ever hired him in the first place because of his history, but he said something, allegedly a gay slur to a photographer, and they canceled his show. So I guess in the mind of MSNBC, it's much worse to say a gay slur at a photographer who, not that I'm defending it, but who is probably not even gay and was trying to take a picture of your kid, than it is to say someone should defecate and urinate in Sarah Palin's mouth.
Well, and Baldwin was doing this out of rage to a paparazzo in front of his apartment, not on the air, not on MSNBC or NBC property, not affiliated in any way at that point in time with NBC or MSNBC, other than the fact that he has a once-a-week show. By contrast, and of course, and this was totally out of anger, not scripted, where what Bashir did was totally scripted, was edited, was viewed likely by at least one producer, if not several.
Right. They could discipline or fire a whole bunch of people if they wanted to.
A whole bunch of people had to, and he apologized. Now, what's interesting about this supposed vacation is I believe that he was on vacation already, either in November or maybe in October, because I seem to remember Joy Reid, who's filling in for him now, filling in for him earlier, either this month or in October. So is kind of questionable here. I frankly think what they're trying to do is they're taking a page from the Obama administration, which is they're trying to run the clock out here. You take them off of the air Thanksgiving week, where everybody's going to get nice and fat and happy tomorrow, and Friday the holidays really start, and Black Friday and shopping and whatnot. I think that they're hoping that people come back fat and in the mood for the holidays on Monday, and that this is going to blow over. And it doesn't seem like it's going to. Now, I don't know whether they're actually going to ever address it, but it does seem like you've got people from a variety of different sources that are coming after this and are not willing to let this go, because this really is, as I think we discussed last week, probably the most offensive thing that we've heard on a cable station. Maher has said worse, but as far as a cable station, this was way over the top.
Absolutely, and it's almost worse if they are suspending him or tell him to take a vacation and not admitting it, because it's as if I don't know, that almost to me makes it a little worse. Listen, we got about 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know whether you saw, I had theorized earlier in the week that the reason that they can't do anything is because their audience likes this type of stuff,
right?
Particularly against, right. So I think that they're in a strange position. It's almost like, I don't know whether I said this last week, it's almost like the NHL banning fighting.
Well,
There's a lot of people who want fighting.
I'm supposed to be on Morning Joe on Monday. I don't know what time, but set your DVR and maybe we'll get to bring it up. I don't know. I'd like to be invited back. We'll see how it goes. Hey, Noel, a wonderful Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll speak to you next week, sir.
You too, sir.
All right. Noel Shepard, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, we have associate editor of newsbusters.org. We have one final segment left in the week, and we'll bring it to you.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-831-1560, 800-831-1560, 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54, with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today in this free offer. We are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
At backtopro.com/special. That's BACTIPRO.com/special. Backtopro.com/special.
Get off the sidelines and be a part of the show. Call Steve toll-free at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks. Final segment before we adjourn for the Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you have a wonderful one. I hope you have a meaningful one, a safe one, a fun one. And also, of course, try to think of those who are serving our country by choice and are in lands far off. Think of Pastor Abedini and those like him who are being held against their will, and pray for them. And also, I don't know how you feel about this, but I am so dead set against the stores opening on Thanksgiving Day. I think that's crazy. Hey, businesses are free to do whatever the heck they want. But if they tick people off, people are free not to shop there. I'm not urging boycotts. I'm just saying I know I wouldn't go into a store that stayed open Thanksgiving Day because to me it's an insult. It's an insult. Now, interestingly, shoppers won't be lining up for Thanksgiving Day sales at stores in Rhode Island, Maine, and Massachusetts. They cannot. It's the legacy of so-called blue laws, which prohibit large supermarkets, big box stores, and department stores from opening on Thanksgiving. Some business groups complain, but many shoppers, workers, and even retailers say they're satisfied with the requirement. And, I know they've started their Black Friday sales, many stores already. They're going to extend their Black Friday sales until, not all of them, until December, first week in December. So why on earth do they have to open on Thanksgiving? There comes a time when tradition needs to be respected, and the tradition of a holiday such as Thanksgiving, even though the schools have tried to pervert it, the lesson plans have tried to pervert it. History is being rewritten before our very eyes, not only on Thanksgiving but on many historical events from our founding right through today. And there's some things we could do about that, some things we can't do about that. But one thing we can do about that is not diminish the importance and the meaning of a traditional holiday like Thanksgiving, a meaningful holiday like Thanksgiving, by having people shop, having stores open, having workers be forced to work, or it's just not right. It's just not right. Now, again, you want to shop, go shop. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling the stores not to open. But if you're open and you're a store, people like me will know you're open and you're a store. It's like I went into a very popular restaurant, not a high-scale restaurant, but a very popular restaurant in a town in New Jersey. People line up outside the door, to get in there, and even in the cold. And I went in, and I used to love it there. And then once I saw the guys got hanging on the wall this anti-gun rant, and I said to him simply, I said, why do you have this story? Like it was a New York Times story or an editorial or something. I said, why do you have this up there? He said, you don't like it? Don't come in anymore. So I haven't been in since. You know, owners of establishments, they can be funny. On one hand, I give them credit for sticking up for their views, wearing it on their sleeve, and letting the chips fall where they may. On the other hand, pretty stupid. Lost my business, which he didn't have to lose. But, hey, you know, that's him. I'm me. You're you. You do as you see fit. Now, just want to end on the lunacy of the left. Ed Schultz and Barbara Boxer talking about Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and comparing it to civil rights. Listen to cut number 26. This is 26.
You know, in our business, we say things, and sometimes we say things really fast. And audiences don't grab it, you know, and like when we say, well, the pre-existing condition. You can say pre-existing condition in a matter of seconds, so quick and boom, it's off the screen. But to that person who has been denied for years because of a pre-existing condition, this is as big as it gets for any consumer. This is real reform. And the American people need to grab this, that this is real reform. Yeah. Being told whether you can sit at a cafe counter or not because of the color of your skin. Being told whether you can vote or not because you're a woman. Being told that you can get equal pay in the workplace. To be told that, well, no matter what your health condition is, the insurance industry is not going to be able to turn you away.
Wow. You compare that to civil rights for blacks and women, and I mean the whole thing is lunacy. And you know what? I don't have a problem with pre-existing condition. I've said it all along. Let the Republicans pass a bill. Now Tom DeLay says they should pass no bill, offer no legislation, because it's unconstitutional for the government, the federal government, to get involved in health care. And he may be right. But pre-existing conditions, keeping your kids on your policy till they're 236 years old, you know, closing the donut hole. Take 4 or 5 things, pass a bill, say, here's our bill. And then take the other 1,900 pages and burn them to shut people like him up. Anyway, all right. You know, boy, he's going to eat a lot of turkey, I bet. Anyway, all right, folks, have a great holiday. Best of Steve Malzberg show tomorrow and Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Chance to catch up on some of the interviews you might have missed, and then we'll do it again on Monday, God willing. Morning Joe, MSNBC, Monday from 6 to 9. I don't know when I'll be on. Set your DVR. Steve Malzberg show on Newsmax TV